partners in business, usually the matter of which we believe is 50-50. The reality, when we have the upcoming discussion, it's ownership of the entire business for each and every partner. Meaning, soon you see a circumstance that you have two partners in business, but each of them have an access, ownership, and rights for the entire business in some time during the course of the ownership. So how you treat it when it's come to some type of reconciliation in disputation between new partnership. Furthermore, we're going to discuss a painful issue that the late Rav Wozner have a response on that, which is shitrei siluk, or in English is some type of prenuptial agreements. You have a second marriages and people bring their own either estates or properties or other things, and they want to have some type of written contract of understanding who owns what, especially if you have from previous marriages children involved. How exactly you reconcile and when you do that? Should you do that pre-engagement, between engagement and marriage, or later during the marriage, and why? Another subject we're going to discuss today is tzavaot psulot, meaning you have a will, halachically living will. And we explain many times, people who follow halacha, the manner of will many times is, if it's not matching the requirement of halacha, is invalid. So soon you see examples of all kind of wills that have its own issue of validity. We'd like to start with the Mishnah, and the Mishnah dealing with partnership. But first, let's refresh our memory in regards to the concept of nichsei milog, which we discussed in the past several days. Wife bringing her estates upon her marriage. The estate has two categories. One is called nichsei tzon barzel, which we explained many times. It's the estate. It's a property that it's unchangeable in a sense that it's her property regardless to her circumstance. She's taking it with her upon divorce, etc. There is another category of nichsei milog, which is a estate that bringing a production, a produce. The produce can be either produce like oranges that come out of a tree, or can be a income from tenants. It's the same manner of which the husband has the access, has the right to the estate, and he has the access, as long as they're married, to eat the fruit of it. So here we are dealing with a situation that the husband signed up and he gave to his wife the right over nichsei milog, which means she's bringing estate from the father's house. So naturally the Baal, the husband, has the right over the produce, but he decided that he's giving it. The same manner he has the right after her passing to inherit her. So the question is that decision to give up the right, is that mean that it's for everlasting in the entire estate or not? Soon you see that it's not, it's just in part. In one hand, he cannot delay her from giving some of the estate as either gift or selling it, but as far as they enjoy the produce and inherited her, he still have the access and the right. Soon you see a discussion over that. So here, to wrap it up, there are three different avenues the husband enjoy the nichsei milog of his wife. Number one is the idea of ochel perot, that he eating the produce, which means he has the right to the income that comes out of the profit of the estate. 2, he inherited the principal if the wife passed away while he was alive. Number 3, his access to the produce abrogated the transfer of the estate by her to someone else. So here again the Mishnah dealing with the halachot involved when the husband said, I'm writing a consent that I have the right over nichsei milog. How far that forgiveness or privileges goes in case of reality or when he changed his mind. How far you go with those decisions. So here we are, page 83. הכותב לאשתו, which means the way the Gemara said that when they engaged, so he זכה מדין סילוק, he entitled to that, so he writes, דין ודברים אין לי בנכסייך. He said, look, I hereby declare in writing that I have no legal dealing with any form of claim to your estate. So, even he wrote it to her, הרי זה אוכל פירות בחייה. He's still entitled to the produce of the estates as long as she's around. ואם מתה, if she's no longer among the living, יורשה, he inherited her. Which means those rights, it's still not totally expunged, it's not totally abrogated from the husband, because it's not included in his statement of forgiving the right. So they said, אם כן, למה כתב לה דין ודברים אין לי בנכסייך? So what's the reason he wrote to her, I have no legal claim to your estate, שאם מכרה ונתנה קיים, that if she sold or gave away her property, the transaction is binding and he cannot claim it. So later the Gemara elaborates on that and explains how far you go with this. Now, here we're dealing with a different language, different way of writing that document that it's an acceptable. כתב לה דין ודברים אין לי בנכסייך ובפירותיהם. I have no legal dealing or involvement with your property or with its produce. הרי זה אינו אוכל פירות בחייה. He may not consume the produce of her property during her lifetime. Why? Because he unequivocally gave the right, the access of that. However, ve'im meta, if she is no longer among the living, Yosha, he entitled to inherit it from her. Why? As we said earlier, that's not incorporated with the right. So the Akiva Iger explains, based on also what we see in the Tosfot Arosh, that if she sold some or all the estates or gave it to someone, it still have an effect. Tosfot said that still, if it's not in total consent, it's not an effective. But you see here from all this discussion that it's in the language of after the fact. Anyway, Rabbi Yehuda disputed that and said, even the husband said, I have no claim to your estate, leolam ochei perei perot. He always entitled to have the produce of the produce, because that's not go to the next step, the other one. Ad שיכתוב לה, The Gemara explained, עד שיכתוב לה דין ודברים אלה מנכסי ופירותיהם פירות תירדם עד עולם. So it means the Ritva explained that has to have a perpetuate agreement, which means not just for the produce of the produce, but it has to go further. And the Gemara explained why it needs to say for everlasting. The third language of vitur, of giving, כתב לה דין ודברים אלה נכסי ופירותיהם ופירות תירדם בחייך ובמותך, meaning I have no claim to your estate during your lifetime, after you passing, אינו אוכל פירות בחייו, אם מתה אינו ראשה. So he is not eating the produce during a lifetime, and he is not inherited her, because he said it in such lucid way, and Tosfot explained that's based on what we study in Yevamot 42, that when you have a disputation, and then you have stam halacha, so you go kill stam. So, now, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Omer Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel disagree, and he said, אם מתה ירשנה, if she passed away, he inherited her, מפני שמתנה על מה שכתוב בתורה. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel said that the husband inherited his wife by the biblical law, not by rabbinic. The Gemara in Tractate Bava Batra, page 111b, learn from the law of inheritance. The Torah said in the book of Numbers, chapter 7, you should give his estate ונתתם את נחלתו לשארו הקרוב אליו משפטו וירש אותה. So why you need to say ירש אותה? So the Gemara derived from that the husband אותה, the husband inherited his wife. So therefore that's something that he holds it's total biblical. Thank you. The Pnei Yoshua explained that the reason Rashi here elaborates so much on this, it's because that condition, it's biblical. So any condition that someone give up on his access, on his right by the biblical term, is ineffective. וכל המתנה על מה שכתוב בתורה, whoever stipulates counter to what is written clearly in the Torah, תנאו בטל, his condition, his stipulation is invalid, it's void. So therefore, the right for the husband to eat from the produce and avoid their sales during her lifetime is rabbinic by everyone. So therefore, Rashi explained that he can give up that part even according to Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. But the idea of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel is, since the husband inherited his wife by the biblical term, any stipulation that he gives up those rights is contradicted to what the Torah said. So therefore, the Maharsha said, and based on Tosfot, it doesn't mean to say that he make it as a total stipulation. It means that that notion is already, it's not valid, it's void. The Ktsot HaChoshen in 209, Reish Teit, he explained that any manner of which a person declares something that it's contradicted to Torah law is automatically void. So that's the cause for that. Anyway, the Gemara now dealing with the whole idea of partnership. So in order to understand that, we need to remember a few things. First, there is a Diyun B'Poskim, is a discussion among the contemporary rabbis. If you have money in a bank, right, and she left an account that you have an access, and all of a sudden you discover that in that account she owed money to all different people. Or if you have a Tzav Yerusha, if you have this court order, subpoena or court order for inheritance. So what do you do with the interest? Why? Because when you're dealing with interest, rebit, it's basically a produce that bring production sometimes, in this case, after her passing. So there are those who say that all this interest applies his acts to that interest is only during her lifetime. But if you have access to a bank account and there is interest over her account for either positive or negative, which means either negative for debt or positive over account, the question is, when you're talking about husband involved in Yerusha, in inheritance, the rabbis ask many times, for example, if the husband wasn't aware that she owes all kind of people things, since he have an access to her account and she passed, does that mean that he is responsible, and vice versa? All those extra ribiyot, extra interest that he received from the account, how far you say that he have the access and he is responsible for that? So now the Gemara starts with the first phase in the Mishnah in a little different way. Rabbi Chia learned in this Mishnah, ha'omer le'ishto, meaning not in the way that we have in the Mishnah, ha'kotev le'ishto, one who wrote to his wife. They use the word ha'omer, one who says to his wife. So, which means that the husband can give away his right by statement that he said, even without kinyanim, without manner of physical transactions or writing a document. So the Gemara said, "V'chi katav lahachei mai havi." If you write that way, how good is this? For sure, she said, if you just said to her. So the book Shara Mishpat is a very important halachic book. Is one of his responses is in regards to two partners. Imagine one was not Jewish, one is Jewish, and the non-Jew convert to Judaism. Now by halacha, ger shenolad, ger meaning a convert is the same as a newly baby, is like newly born. So in that sense, when he passed away, nechasav hefker, his leftover estate, in the general sense, anyone will have an access to that. So now the question is, how you treated his partner? Do you say that since they are partners, it means that he has a full ownership of the business, and it means when he passed away, no one else have an access to a half of the business, since he has a regular shutaf, a regular partner, or not? So the Nodab Yehuda derived from that a story that happened in their community. Is a fellow sold his chametz to a non-Jew, and they make a contract and they give him deposit and everything. And then hour before Yom Tov, hour before Pesach, the non-Jew came and he said, I was thinking, who knows what these Jews do to me, and I don't know what you are planning to do, etc., etc. I don't want that deal. I'm offering you the money and I offer the rest. The guy was arguing with him. It's an hour before Yom Tov, he's already, the house ready, everything is ready. So back and forth, he convinced him to stay by his deal and not to back out. So another Yehuda, based on this discussion, asked a question. Since we said here that it's only, the non-Jew did not sign back the contract and gave him back the money. It was only talk. So as long as you don't have bitul mekach, you don't have a contractual that stated clearly that that contract is void, so Baruch she'amar v'haya olam, right? Someone omer bilvad, he just said it, it doesn't have a legal effect. Anyway, ve'atanya, ha'omer lechavero, if someone said to his fellow who's partner with him in the field, din udvarim en li al sadeh zo, he said, I don't have any involvement with your property. Ve'en li esek ba, I don't have anything to do with that. Ve'yadi mesuleket emena, and he says, I'm not by any means, I don't have any access to that, and my hands are removed from it. So they said, Lo amal klum. He doesn't say anything. Why? Because in that statement he waived rights without transferring them to another, so you don't have any serious legality in that. So the Khatam Sofer derived from that the whole idea of making those situations of shitrot siluk, especially with which we call prenuptials, it should take place at the time close to the nisuim, between engagement and the marriage. Amrei devei Rabbi Anai. So in the Beit Midrash on Rabbi Anai, they said that for sure someone who has the ownership of some chefetz and he wants to transfer it to his fellow, so he needs to give it in the way of a gift. It's not enough that he said, okay, I let go those rights. But the Mishnah dealing with what? Bechotev la ve'oda arusa. That it means that he writes to her why she'll still betrothed. So since the property was not yet in the husband's possession, because when it was that condition, it wasn't his ownership, he was able to forgo any right that he will later receive. Bechotev la ve'oda arusa. Okay? So now, the Rav Kahana, the Amar Rav Kahana, נחלה באה לאדם ממקום אחר, אדם מתנה עליה שלא יירשנה. So he said that any inherit that comes to a person from another place, which means he did not inherit it directly, but rather through his wife or by means of a gift, the person can stipulate with regard to it that he will not inherit it. So Rabbeinu Nisim explains that regardless if it's a very wealthy son, it's very well-to-do, and he said, I don't want to get anything from my father, it doesn't mean anything by halacha. It's still, he get it. You don't, כדרבה, דאמר רבא, אומר אי אפשי בתקנת חכמים. If someone said, I do not want to avail myself to those rules of the rabbis that was instituted on my behalf, כזו שומעים לו. Like this one, we listen to him. מהי כגון זו? כדאמר אבונה אמריו, דאמר אבונה אמריו, we learn it in page 58, יכולה אישה שתאמר לבעלה, אני נוזמת ואני עושה. As you know, we try to make peace. So he is a breadwinner, and she is the one who instituted that she should give him her income. Now the thing is, she can say, guess what? We don't want to have a hatred between them. But if she said, don't worry about supporting me, I will manage myself, so that's a different story, right? So she basically has the right to say, we try to bring peace, but she has the right to say, okay, you don't support me and I'll keep my income for myself. So in the same token, the husband has the right to forgo his accessibility or rights over his wife's estate. So the Gemara asks, if that's the case, the Rabbi's opinion that one can waive a right instituted by the rabbis for its own benefit, and that is acceptable. So then, afilu nesua nami, even she's married. So also those conditions are valid. So why Rabbi Anai put this Mishnah only when she betrothed? Amar Abaye nesua yado keyada. When she's married, the husband's access to nichsei milog of his wife is equal to her right, which means is in a sense a partnership, continuation of their marriage. So since those estates considering his, so he cannot use that language of let it go away, only if he does that in a language of a gift. So that's, by the way, part of the tzavaot. When the parents, for example, said, I'm giving a gift, matana michayim, is one thing. But when you put something as a tzava'ah, it's a will, it's a different story. Rava Amar, Yado Adifa Miyada. Rabbi explained that if they are married, his hand is preferable to her. He has more right to her property than she does. So basically, Rava disputed Abaye. It's not regular situation of nichsei milog of a married woman, because according to both view, the accessibility and the rights over the field is the wife, but the nichsei milog, the right of eating the produce, is totally the husband. So regardless if he's equal partner to her or he's more than her, he cannot give away his right after they got married just by stating that he is giving it up. Now the Gemara explains what's the difference. Nafka mina. The real difference is what? Leshomeret yavam. So I explained in my book, Rashi here said, כלומר לעניין דין ודברים לא פליגי, דבין ידו כידה ובין ידו, I'm just quoting the Rashi, עדיפה מידה אין מועיל בה לשון דין ודברים לסלקו. So that's base of the disputation of Abaye and the Rava on page 39 in regard to Shomeret Yavam, the one who is waiting, she's waiting to a brother-in-law to perform a Levirate marriage. So the question is, can a husband let go the right over the estates? And we said here that if she's betrothed only, she can let go. You don't need to say in the language of a gift. But if it's a married one, that yado keyada or yado adifa, so that's a different story. But when it's come to Shomeret Yavam, the one who's waiting for a brother-in-law to do a Levirate marriage, when the Yavam let go his right over this estate, here you see a difference between Abaye and Rabba. Because according to Abaye, Yado Keyada, which means the Yavama has no right the same as Yavam, because it's not total manner of marriage, only zikat yibum. So therefore the language of mechila is ineffective, according to a Rabba. But when it's a marriage situation, yado adifa miyada, which means he has more power than her, you can say that even Yavama is not yet in a level of regular marriage, because she have only zikat yavam, but it's in the same gader, the same definition of yadok yada. So therefore he needs to have kabbalat kinyan, a matter of transition in the language of matana, of a gift. And Rashi wants to make sure we don't go in that avenue, and so he said the meaning of this Gemara and this nafkamina, it's not for this case, but in only a situation of Yerusha, of inheritance, when she had those estate and then she passed away. Ibaya lehu. So they ask in the Beit HaMidrash a question, if kanu miyado mahu, what happened if they have a clear declaration that is relinquishing his right to his partner property, but they also perform an act of acquisition, transferring the right from him. Mahu. Amar Rav Yosef, midin udvarim kanu. Rav Yosef said, so they acquire from him only his promise. So Rav Nachman Amar, migufa shel karka kanu miyado. He said that this transaction has an effect, they acquire the land himself from him, so therefore the gift is an effective one. So Rashi explained, since you don't have a reason to have kabbalat kinyan, to have this matter of transactions, by only din udvarim, but only talking, we assume that he does that in order to bring more effectiveness to his statement by making these total acquisitions. אמר רביי מסתברא מילתא דרב יוסף, that this more reasonable to hold what Rav Yosef said, that this kinyan, this matter of acquisition, is void, but this only 83b, be'orer, if the owner of the estate have a strong objection when the partner come and hold the right to the estate, and he said, no, I didn't meant to give this estate as a gift, only he tried to avoid a conflict with him, that portion that we have earlier. Aval be'omed, if he's acquiesce, meaning if he's standing, the owner of the estate stand, and he's not saying day or two before the other guy objected, we said, migufa shel karka kanu miyado. So he said, one acquired from him the land itself, as he cannot retract his statement at this late stage. So, ruling, Amar Ameimar, Hilcheta migufa shel karka kanu miyado. One acquired from him the land itself, which means the halacha is that by giving the land itself, that's what the partner acquired from him. Amar le Rav Ashi le Ameimar, be'orer or be'omed? Is that applies when the owner of the estate is orer, is object, or when he is just acquiesce for a day or two before he objected. The mind of Kamina, what's the real difference between the two? Said Lich de Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef said that there is a differentiation between one who display equanimity, who is acquiesce, to someone who raise objections. Amar lei lo shmiya li, klomar lo svira li. You see klomar here in the Gemara. So the Rivan said that you should take out amar lei. So it's like continuation, but the idea is, Maram Shif said that language is a little bit megumgam ktsat. It's not, the idea here, he tried to say that you have to differentiate between the two situations. So I disagree that there is a difference, because I don't think that it's any difference between the owner of the estate that rejected it, to the situation that he has, at the first place, kept quiet, and I talk about both situations. So there is a book called Mar'e Kohen, also you see it in Shita Mikubetzet, that elaborates on the idea of the Gemara here using the word klomar, what he meant. In general, you know that I said many times that it meant sometimes to make sure that we don't go astray in our understanding. But here it's clear that he wants to say that I disagree that there is any form of disputation. So now the Mishnah said, if someone said in writing to his wife, I have no claim over the estate, so he can eat the produce during her lifetime, and if she passed away, he allowed to inherit it. So in Ken Lama Katavla, the Mishnah asks why he needs to write to her. V'teimalei, maybe she said, meaning the wife said to her husband, Mikol milei slikat nafshach, you remove yourself from everything. Since he wrote a very general statement, which could be understood as a renouncement of all of his right, so she said, forget it. That's it. It's like someone I know, they own around Tel Aviv an apartment, he and his wife. So they go through difficulties. So one of the things, he tried to avoid conflict, he said, okay, you take the rent. She's moving, she's going elsewhere, in some place, you rent. So the other day he said that she said to him, all right, since she get used to collect the rent unilaterally, right, just to her. So now she said, all right, so transfer the name to me. He says, that's not what I meant. I meant that you can collect the rent, and I don't mind that part to give it to you, but not to take the sharing of the estate. Anyway, so they said, אמר אביי יד בעל השטר על התחתונה. The owner of the document is in a situation of disadvantage. Why? Because the way that you see the interpretation of that document, you interpret it is in a way that only something that is written clearly, lucidly in that document. The idea is that you have to impose only the most limited obligations. So the husband can assume to have relinquished only some of his rights, but not everything. So therefore the Gemara challenged and said, Ve'ema mi peirei, maybe the husband gave his right to derive benefit from the produce. Amar Abaye, Butzina tav mikara. Abaye said, you know what? Cucumber in one's possession is better than gourd. One will have only later. Which means you have here, they said always that the bird in your hand is better than the bird on the tree, right?
That's right.
So they said here, the right to eat from that field, from that produce in the field, brings a constant cash flow, income. And that's better from the right to avoid the sale of the estate, that it's not practical until you make a decision to sell the entire estate, something that will not ever happen. So he said, Ve'ema mi rusha. Maybe you say that the husband has withdrawn his right from the inheritance. Amar Abaye mita shchicha, mechira lo shchicha. Death is something that is common. Selling the estate is not so common because the wife doesn't want to sell estate that came from her father's inheritance. So there's a few explanations why. Either Rabbi Akiva Iger and a few others say that it's emotional attachment or it's a feeling of secure, all kind of reasons. People not doing V'chi mesalik inish nafshei. When a person avoid himself from attached to that estate, mimilta delo shchicha, mimilta de shchicha lo mesalik inish nafshei. So something that is not common, that's fine, but something that is not, something that is common, the person do not remove himself. So Rav Ashi Amar, if you look carefully at the language, the husband said, he said, bin chasaich, he says, from your estate, velo beferotehem, but not for the produce that come from the principal. Bin chasaich, for your estate, for your property, velo lachar mita, but I'm not relinquishing my claim to it after you are no longer among the living. So it means that the husband not totally gave away the right of selling the estate. Rabbi Yehuda אומר, לעולם הוא אוכל פירי פירות. He said he consumed, Rabbi Yehuda hold that he consumed the produce of the produce, תנו רבנן. אלו הם פירות ואלו הם פירי פירות. What is the produce and what is the produce of the produce? הכניסה לו קרקע ועשתה פירות. The wife brought נכסי מילוג, estate, and that estate bringing a produce. So there הן פירות. הן פירות, that's considering a produce. מכר פירות ולקח קרקע, if he sold the produce and purchased estate, ועשתה פירות, and that estate brings produce, הרי הן פירי פירות. This is already the second stage. Again, here the bride are dealing with the situation that the husband gave up his right over this produce, So she, the wife, entitled to eat the produce. If she chooses not to eat them, but to purchase estate from that money, Rabbi Yehuda said that that estate is her, but it's defined as nichsei milog, and therefore the husband has the right to the produce of that estate, since he's not gave up the produce of the produce. Tanakama, however, of the Mishnah, said that when a husband did not give up his right to those produce, his and any estate that you purchase from that money, including the produce that come out of that, it's his. So the Rosh explained that if you have a situation that he gave up his right over the produce, he's basically removed even from the produce that come within the produce, which means according to that view is no such a thing produce of produce as a separate definition, separate halachic definition. That's what the Rabbeinu Asher said. So he said, Ibaelu le Rabbi Yehuda peirei peirot davka or dilma ad olam davka. So you mean to say when you talk about produce of produce, you mean to say this specifically or forever? That is alone is sufficient. Or dilma travayu davka. Maybe you say that the only effective if you specifically write both of this statement. Im timtze lomar peirei peiro davka. If you meant to say that specifically the phrase applies to what? To produce of produce, right? That's make the husband's statement effective. So therefore, ad olam lamali. Why you need the Mishnah to say the word that it's forever? Hakamash Melan, the Gemara responds, the Mishnah wants to tell us, Kivan dekatav la peiroi peirot, kivan dekatav la ad olam damei. Since he writes produce of the produce, it means forever. So now Gemara said, wait a second. If you go this way, you can ask in the opposite way. Ve'im timtze lomar ad olam davka, you said for everlasting specifically. Peirei peirot lamali, produce of the produce. Why the Mishnah needs to mention in the language of Rabbi Yehuda produce of the produce, she'll say the produce for everlasting, and that's all. Hakamash Melan, the Mishnah wants to teach us the afal gav de katav la peirei peirot, even he write the produce of the produce, I katav la ad olam ein ilolo. If he writes for everlasting, it's good. So he gave up all his right for all the future consequences from that produce, otherwise not. Ve'im timtze lomar travayu davka, that's the third way. Tarte lamali, why you need both? Why one of them is not sufficient? Tzricha. Di katav la peirei peirot v'lo katav la ad olam. If you write produce of the produce, and he didn't write for everlasting. Hava minai, I may enter to my mind that is what? Peirei peirot u'du achil, produce of the produce, he is not eating because he gave up on this. Aval peira de peirei peirot achil, but the produce of those produce of the produce he eats. Lehache itzterich ad olam, that the husband gave up all the other future generation of the produce. V'katav la ad olam v'lo katav la peirei peirot. If he writes for everlasting and he didn't specify the produce of the produce, hava min al olam haperot kai lach yitzrich perei perot. So it means that since he specified the produce and the produce of that produce, and he add to that for everlasting, it is so lucid, unambiguous, clearly, that it's the ad olam for everlasting applies to the future generation, and the produce of the produce that come out of that, and not the produce itself for the upcoming years. So it means that what Rabbi Yehuda holds is one of the three avenues that we mentioned earlier, and the question which one is the right, we did not solve. So now the Gemara goes to a question that's similar to that one. היא באה אלוהו, כתב לה דין ודברים עליהם בחסר ובפרי פירות. מהו שיאכל פירות? Can he eat? He have access to the original produce. מפרי פירות סליק נפשי, מפרי לא סליק נפשי. For the produce of the produce we understand that he is not. But he's right for the first one, he's not out. או דילמה מכל מילי סליק נפשי. Or you may say that he removed himself from all matters, which means as the produce of the produce includes the produce itself. The Gemara said, Pshita de mikol milei salik nafshi. It's obvious that he removed himself from all matters. Di amar mi perei perot salik nafshi, mi piro salik nafshi, kivan de'achlim leperot, perei perot mehecha. Since he eat the produce, so where will there be produce of the produce? Uletamich, and according to your reasoning, the same question could be asked about the case discussed in the Mishnah. Haretnan Rabbi Yehuda omer לעולם הוא אוכל פירי פירות. כיוון דאכלתינו לפרק, because he eating the produce, פירי פירות מהיכה, for when they come the produce of the produce, אלא בדשיירח אינם בדשייר. So you say that one who left over some of the produce, which he used to purchase land, of which produce he consumes. So if so, here too, this is a case of one who left over some of the produce from which he acquired land, and it is the produce of this land to which he has no right. So basically you have this dilemma that left open and not solved. The truth is that Shulchan Aruch Even HaEzer in 92 have a discussion over that, and if you read the Ran and the Rashba, they try to find some avenue to reconcile, but the way that we understand in the Pshat is a question that unresolved.
Boyachem leshuloim malachai yeshuloim malachai